Hey guys, this is Three Deep South. Welcome to our first ever episode. This is a college football podcast brought to you from the great state of Arkansas. I'm Mason. These are my hosts, Derek and Cody. I'm going to let them introduce ourselves and then we're going to get into the episode.
Cody, would you care to go first, or?
Yeah, that's fine. All right, guys, my name's Cody. I've always loved football. I started playing probably fifth grade. This is one of the things that I love most about life. You know, there's nothing better than on a Saturday tuning in to college game day and thinking how stupid all the people picking are. So we decided to say stupid stuff ourselves. So excited.
All right, Derek.
Thank you, friend. Thank you. My name's Derek. I've watched football ever since I was a little boy. I like the Razorbacks. Go Hogs, you know. Mason.
Big Chiefs fan over there, Derek.
Big Chiefs fan.
All right, so basically today what we're going to go over is we're going to go over the current NIL lawsuits between Arkansas's collective Arkansas Edge and Madden. Amaliava or whatever his name is.
Amaliva.
And then we're going to go over our top week one games that were, maybe they're unexpected, but we think they're big games, could have big implications later on in the season. And then we're going to go over some players primed for a big 2025. These aren't just players that we're expecting to have big years. They're also important to their team's success going forward. So let's start off with the NIL. Cody, I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Alrighty, so everybody knows the whole Nico and Madden Amaliva situation that's been going on, okay? It all started when Nico wanted to leave Tennessee because the offense just wasn't productive enough. Had nothing to do with anything else, allegedly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, lo and behold, after we get this flip from UCLA, we pay him a little over $400,000. He doesn't even wear a jersey because we don't have a spring game. He enters the transfer portal after being an early enrollee. Well, one of the good things Yurichek has done, which is our athletic director, is he actually had lawyers draw up this contract. And from what I understand, there hasn't been a lot of lawyer involvement in these deals. So there's a section in the contract that calls for Madden to pay 50% of the financial sum that is still remaining on the contract that was signed by both parties. So since he has gotten a little over $400,000, he should be having to pay Arkansas a little over $200,000 because he's literally done nothing for the program except take money and waste time. I mean, how frustrating would it be to be a coach and you're pouring all this time into a freshman that you think is probably going to wind up being your second string and, you know, you see a future with, and after 4 months he says, see you later. You know, and the way it all went down, he's committed to UCLA, all of a sudden he flips. I mean, it's a little fishy. Something tells me that he was coming here to kind of double dip, get some money from us, then go there anyway. So that's my take on it. I'm glad he's gone. I think he would have been a cancer to the team, and I think this is better for the program. I hate that it costs us that much money.
Well, and the way I see it is going into the spring, Arkansas originally scheduled a spring game, and Bobby Petrino had these quotes in the media talking about how advanced he was and how good he was moving along. He just needed to learn the playbook, and really it seemed like it was marketing for Madden is what it seemed like we were doing for him. And then as soon as we see Nico leave, what was it, 3 days later, Madden's gone too? It does, in a sense, feel like he duped us, like he gypped us a little bit, you know, and almost just used us for a check to where he could go back to where he really wanted to go. I said, how do you think this will like affect college football moving forward, depending on how this goes?
Did not. If
I'll just go into it for a second. You can maybe bounce off me in a sec. So the way I see this going is, if Madden doesn't have to pay anything back, there will be no accountability left in college football. There will be nothing left saying that you have to hold these obligations that you signed for. You're basically just, our donors become cash cows to undeserving and selfish people, really. And moving forward, you could see this really screwing a lot of small schools like a USF or a UCF in the state of Florida, where they have these big dogs in the state. So a hometown kid might get a bigger offer initially. A 3-star might get a bigger offer from UCF, and then whenever he gets there, spring portal window opens, and his ass goes to Miami, just because more exposure or something, or just whatever his reason is. And if that happens, you're going to see a lot more poaching, just in the sense of from December, whenever he committed, right? He flips out of nowhere. I had no idea we were even recruiting the guy. He was never on any of our boards. He was on never on any of our list. He flips to us out of nowhere. I assume it's because we offered the most money. And then as soon as Nico goes, and I don't think this is necessarily on the players. I don't want to necessarily say that, because I think there's a lot of agents in college football right now that are in people's ears that don't need to be. There are a lot of guys that are saying, well, you're really worth this. And in that situation, you're going to see a lot of players that are committing in December and going to players or places with bigger exposure, like bases, more fans, more media coverage, more this and that. And it's really going to screw a lot of the schools out of what they thought was a future. And there was nothing saying that he was going to be our starting quarterback one day.
Right.
But that's why you recruit these guys, is to develop, turn them into something to where they can be your starting quarterback one day. Because Taylor Green's out the door in December. He's gone. We're not making the playoffs, so you won't see him in January. Right. But he's gone, in December. So
I don't think. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You're good. I was.
I don't think it's really so much on Madden. Because it's not his fault that the rules are the way the rules are. Right. He's out here trying to get a bag, and they've made it to where it's easy for him to chase the bag.
Right.
So he doesn't necessarily, you can't blame the guy for trying to go and get the money and then go somewhere else without any kind of consequences. There's no consequences. So you can't really, I don't think it's so much on the players as it is so much on the NCAA to try and fix what we got going on here. Because there are no, repercussions per se for people that just dip in and dip out. Like Cody said earlier, double dipping. There's no consequences. I think some way we can kind of help this is cut down the time to transfer, because there's 2 transfer periods. And I think if we take either the spring or the December transfer period out, you'll have a little less guys leaving, and it'll help mitigate losses. Right. And people jumping around and trying to get more money. So you have a more controlled area of where you can spend your money and lose money.
Well, and Cody, what do you think? Who's going to step up? And what are they going to do? What do we think?
Be honest, I think Arkansas is laying the foundation, going after trying to get this money back. I think instead of 50%, we should drive that number up to possibly even 80%. Make it a bigger deal to prevent kids from trying to do what we're calling double dipping. If they commit there, and we pay them $500,000, make them pay $400,000 back if they choose to leave 4 months later. They're going to be like, well, why do that and waste my time? I'm either going to stay here for a year, get my money, or commit wherever I want to commit. But I just want to say this: I do put blame on the players. I don't. I think they should be held accountable. I mean, they're adults now. Some of them are young adults in these situations. But you can't tell me he didn't know what he was doing. All these kids are all about making that bag. Well, if you're a highly recruited kid out of high school, is your goal just to make a couple million in 4 years playing college football, or do you want to go to the NFL and make truly life-changing money?
Yeah.
That's my question, because I think this not only hurts his character for fans and everything like that, I think it hurts his draft stock as well in the future. You can't tell me these NFL owners aren't going to look back at some of this and think, is he really playing for the love of the game, or is he just all about money? That's my take on that.
You got to think, though. I mean, he hasn't played a snap at all, so we don't really know what he's going to do in college, period.
Yeah, we don't know
So
what his future is.
yeah, so and you're already spending this much money on a guy who's not even played a snap. So I don't think it has I think it has more to do with who's telling him what to do versus him making the decision. If you go back to when you were 18 years old and somebody flashes, $500,000 in your face, you're going to say, heck yeah, sign me up. I'll play wherever. And then you get somebody else offering you, another $5,000 or $600,000. You just sign me up and I get to go play with my brother. You know what I mean? So, I don't think it's necessarily so much on the character of the player as of like Mason said earlier, you got agents just guiding these guys around, and who knows if they're even talented at this point. You know what I mean? Because you've not seen some of these guys hardly grace the college field. Could be big misses. I mean, what was his name that was playing for Clemson and didn't do very well at Clemson? Dabo was a super
DJ Ugalele.
Went to play at Florida State, and I'm sure he probably raked in a little bit of money off that. But he just wasn't he probably made quite a bit of money in Florida State. But there was no.
In a situation like DJ, for example, he did his time at Clemson. He stayed there, I think, 3 years. Because of the COVID exemption, he got another year. He went to Oregon State. They had a 6 to 8 win season. I can't quite remember. And then he went to Florida State. I think that's different because, in my opinion, he upheld that obligation. And what I would like to see going forward is some sort of obligation. I mean, because essentially they got none. I mean, if you can just come to a place in December and then in April you decided my ass is hitting the portal. I mean, there's no obligation. You never stepped foot on Donald W. and played it down for us. You didn't even stand there and get tail and water. You know what I mean? You didn't get chewed out by Bobby one time because of something you actually did. So he didn't owe us anything necessarily, except for what should have been owed, and there should have been an obligation in the first place. What I would like to see going forward is we got to have some kind of governing body. The NCAA hasn't done a thing in years. I mean, they took Reggie's Heisman. That's the last thing I can remember them actually doing.
They gave it back.
So the NCAA is done. This needs to go to a conference level. There needs to be a conference commissioner that we already have that should be the head of governing this thing. There's no reason why this is a regular thing. We lost 40 guys in the portal, and I'm assuming that a lot of those guys didn't move up to a better school. I'm assuming a lot of those guys went down or went even and just got more money. There has to be some sort of power that is making them sign 2-year contracts, in my opinion. Because after 2 years, I would say you fulfilled an obligation, and after 2 years, Arkansas also knows if they want you or not. It gives the school power to also get rid of guys that they don't want, and it gives the players power to negotiate higher. So it's kind of best of both worlds in that sense. With revenue sharing and the way NIL has gone, there's just going to be more money, more and more money, and it's going to come back to the fans, and the fans are getting screwed in this, really. I mean, the way I feel about it, I feel like the fans are the ones hurting because, I mean, could y'all name 10 guys that we got in the transfer portal?
I can name one.
I can name one because we talked about him earlier. Omega, whatever. I don't even remember his last name.
Omega, you know Blake. But neither here nor there.
So, really, the way I see that is for the health of college football, there's got to be some sort of stability there.
There's got to be a change. There's got to be a change because we can't keep going at this rate because there's no honor per se, and there's no. I'm struggling to find the word right now.
There's no integrity.
The integrity. So, I mean, you're right. They got to do something. Whether you make them sign some formal agreement that says if you leave, we are entitled to so much money back.
Yeah.
There's got to be
more money than what they're currently owing.
Right. You got to do something to keep these guys where they're at, not running around.
I would like to see there be a standard. Let's say me, Mason, I'm committing to the University of Arkansas, which I would love, but that's never going to happen either way. I think there should be a base pay because as a freshman, you kind of know what you're getting, but What I don't. I think there should be a base pay. Okay,
Mhm.
and then maybe incentives based on you marketing yourself. You don't get a deal from Tyson because you just showed up on the campus. You might get a deal from Tyson to actually do something beyond the field because it wasn't supposed to be. Oh well, uh, Nico, you're a 5-star, so we're going to give you $50,000 just to show up and visit, and then we're going to give you another $4 million just to just because you're playing football here. There should be like autograph signings. Devo Davis one time was on a radio show. I'm sure he got paid for that. Commercials, like there has to be. I feel like it should be that way. You can earn money that way, or maybe you earn money through team accomplishments. But there shouldn't be all this. Some guys are making $4 million. Some guys are making 100,000. Some guys are making nothing. There's got to be some. I think a base pay with 2-year contracts. You can leave, or the school can kick you out, or you can extend it for the rest of it. Um, that protects walk on or that. Well, there's not going to be walk ons anymore. That protects those guys that might not really play. That protects red shirts. That protects the school, and that protects the player, in my opinion. And I think that's the route we should probably go. Um, are y'all done with NIL, or do y'all got more to say?
I think I'm pretty wrapped up on it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to add on. It's a little side tangent I'm about to go on here
Mm-hmm.
on the NIL stuff. One of our basketball players, McDonald's All Americans, that is
Mm-hmm.
committed us out of high school, has already signed a deal with Reebok.
Yeah,
So
I saw that
I
today.
mean, there's money to be made. If you're him. But
Yeah.
yeah, we can go on.
So why does the university collective need to pay you $4 million if you can go and get yourself a deal at Reebok?
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to be available to
I see what
everybody,
you're
but that's why
saying
we
now.
need a
Yeah.
base pay. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So let's get into our games that we're excited for in week one. Derek, do you want to start this one off, or Cody? One of y'all?
I'm excited to watch LSU and Clemson kick
Mm-hmm.
off week one. I mean, huge game over the real Death Valley.
Yeah.
Big deal. A lot of talk over the years of who's going to do it and who's better than.
Well.
Two really key big players that coming back would be the quarterbacks. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
be a huge deal for both teams returning quarterbacks. Cade Klubnik, I mean, really turned it on towards the end of the season. You've seen some crazy stuff out of him running into the ball game. Just wasn't really enough to climb the hill against Texas. But you look at his season stats, it's 308 completions with 486 attempts. And then you got pretty close to 4,000 yards, 3,639, 36 touchdowns. And Garrett Newsomeyer on the you flip the script on the other side. I mean, you got 337 completions, 4,000 yards, and 29 touchdowns. I mean, that's pretty crazy stats. So what you're looking at is a pretty gung ho, slinging the ball across the field top game. And I mean, the good thing, the cool thing to see coming out of that is you got returning guys. You got a few returning guys on defense on LSU. Whit Meeks, linebacker, really solid. Had a solid season. He was an all SEC American, first team, and really solid linebacker. He's just a junior to not to mention. So pretty excited to see what happens with that. So
Cody, do you
Who's
got
your
anything
pick?
on that game?
Who's your pick week one there, Derek?
you always SEC, man. You got to go LSU. I'm sorry, I can't help it.
Yeah. I think another big thing on this game is the head coaching matchup. Brian Kelly and Dabo Sweeney are really big head coaches, and the sport of college football is about head coaches since there's so much turnover. Dabo sprinkled in the transfer portal finally. I'm so glad he finally did it because Clemson was really falling behind the other big dogs because they were unwilling to do the transfer portal. And now that Dabo's finally sprinkled some stuff in, like Derek said, he's got the returning quarterback. I really expect a big year from Clemson this year. I'm going with the Clemson Tigers week 1 to really stamp this season and propel them forward going on. Cody, what do you got?
Listen, Mason, I gotta agree with you. I think Dabo's the better coach. I'm not a
I do
Brian
too.
Kelly fan. I think he's going to be outcoached, outmatched, outclassed. I don't think that LSU is not going to win this game. Now it's going to be close. I do believe that
Mm-hmm.
because it's week 1. What is LSU known for in recent memory? Blowing close
Blowing week
games
1.
and blowing week 1.
Yeah.
I think Clemson takes it. I think they take it. I'd say over 3. We'll go 3.
Yeah. And I really on the quarterback thing, Garrett Nussmeier last year, whenever he was on, he was electric. You know, they had a lot of talent at receiving, but their defense wasn't great, and they needed Garrett Nussmeier. And even the reports from Brian Kelly and what I've seen with my own eyes say that at times Garrett Nussmeier is up here and he's down here. You know, he's very
Wishy-washy.
inconsistent.
Really inconsistent, yeah.
And in games that they lost last year, he threw some picks, you know. And they even lost to inferior teams. I don't think they had any business last year losing to USC. Like that was week 1. They lost to Florida State twice in a row, week 1. So I just think history repeats itself. I like LSU this year, but I think I like Clemson more. And I think it would be the same in week 13 as it would in week 1, you know? And home field is going to be a big deal to me. Cody, what game do you got?
Man, I'm going August 29th. Colorado versus Georgia Tech. Man, I'm excited to see what Colorado looks like without Travis Hunter, without Shador. And we can mention the other Sanders, the forgotten brother, just so he feels welcomed. But you see, let me see here. They're bringing back 24 returning starters at this point, okay? Caden Salter is projected to be their starting quarterback. So over the last, his stats aren't too impressive over the last 4 seasons. However, I'm not particularly 100% sure if he was behind Shador last year. But over the past 4 seasons, he's thrown for about 5,900 passing yards, but he's also followed that with about 2,100 rushing yards. He's thrown for 56 pass touchdowns and 21 rushing touchdowns. Last season alone, I'm going to assume he probably wasn't at Colorado unless this was in cleanup time because I know Shador got hurt a couple times, but I don't see him throwing for 2,000 in a couple games.
No.
He threw for about 2,000 yards and had about 15 touchdowns with around 600 rushing yards. I think having a guy, I mean, I know he's probably new to the offense. I'm going to assume they got him in the transfer portal. You know, they can crucify me in the comments if they want.
It's
That's
pretty
fine.
safe to assume that
a
lot of guys are transfer portal guys nowadays.
Oh, yeah. Now, they did have a 5-star commit out of high school that could potentially, I don't know. I don't remember his name, but I know they got a good top recruit coming in.
Right.
And at running back, they got Dallin Hayden. He's a 4-star out of high school. He's at 5'10", 205, right?
Bowling ball.
Yeah. He was out of Memphis. He played last season at Ohio State. His stats to me aren't jumping out at me. He's in the 22-23 season, he had 130 carries for about 660 yards. And then last year, now he got hurt and missed a couple games for Colorado, which he had 64 carries and came in just under 200 yards. Now, he did have 17 receptions for $132. Like I said, nothing too impressive. But I'm excited to see. I don't know. I probably won't even pick until after y'all pick on who's going to win this game. Now, let's move on to Georgia Tech. So they're actually in the nation. They got the number 26 ranked with returning starters. They are returning over 65% on offense and defense. Now, one of their weaknesses, which let me go back to Colorado, back it up. Their O-line was terrible last year. I mean, just awful. So I'm interested to see how Coach Prime. I know he had a big 5-star out of high school commit to him, and I'm assuming he didn't hit the portal because I was back in the winter.
Right.
But so I know that he's addressed it in some, but I don't know across the field. I haven't been able to look. But anyways, they're returning 1 starter on the D-line. Georgia Tech is. So I can anticipate that is going to be their weakness because their linebackers, safeties, and corners are all second, third year returning players.
Right.
So they should be pretty solid, at least in technique, I would think. Now you already know Colorado's going to have some athletes out there at receiver. So if if the quarterback can get them the ball, I can see it probably being a shootout. Let me see here. Haynes King is Georgia Tech's quarterback.
Returning.
Yeah, returning quarterback. Let me see. So last year he threw for 2,100 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Yet with a 78.6 QBR. Not bad. Now the passing yards doesn't just jump out at me either, but that's solid. He's solid, and if you can be
Right.
solid, you can win some games.
Well, and he really contributed to the run game last year for Georgia Tech. If you remember that game that they played against Georgia at the end of the year, he killed Georgia with his legs. So he's a dual threat guy. I really like Georgia Tech this year too. I think the
Yeah,
ACC could potentially be a 3-bid league.
yeah. I got to be honest with you. I think I'm going to take Georgia Tech
Mm-hmm.
in this game, but I could see it going either way. I'm a Dion fan. Y'all can be on me all year. I don't know how y'all feel about him, but I'm going to have to take Georgia Tech week 1. I hope I'm wrong because I want Colorado to succeed.
And I think there's a method to Dion's madness. With the exposure, he's going to get a lot of looks, good and bad. And a lot of people say any exposure is good exposure. So it will be interesting to see what a Colorado team without Shadur, Shiloh, Travis Hunter, what that whole media circus is.
It's going to be a totally different. I mean, maybe we can get back to football, honestly.
Right, maybe. And I like that for Colorado, but I don't have them in this game either. I got Georgia Tech. I liked what I saw last year. I like their head coach. I like Haynes King. I don't love him. He was A&M's quarterback at one point, so I never will love him. But I like him. I think they're tough. I think last year it was their coming out party in a sense. They showed up right on the scene in Dublin. They kicked Florida State's butt all over the field, and they followed it up with a pretty decent season. I think they'll probably control this game. I don't think they'll blow the doors off Colorado, but I don't think it'll ever be really in doubt. I got Georgia Tech. Derek, what about you?
I like Haynes King's legs. I like that he's very versatile and very mobile, get around the field. I mean, Georgia Tech also does a really great job at running the ball.
Yep.
Very physical, downhill runners, getting to the hole, hitting the hole hard. So I'm kind of like you, Cody. I really am interested to see what Dion is able to accomplish without Shadur. And with that being said, I'm kind of curious to see what Shadur can do in the NFL. So I think it'll be kind of one of them situations like Brady and Belichick, almost, where you see who was really doing it for the team. You know what I mean? Like if Shadur was really that guy, or if it's prime time leading the way, But I got Georgia Tech coming out on top. I'm going to be honest with you. I like them a little bit more, and I like the physicality. Like you said, I mean, just really showed up and showed out last year, week 1 against Florida State, and I think they're going to do it again this year. So,
yeah, and and this might just be a misconception in my head. I just don't feel like Colorado is going to be geared to deal with physicality like that. Last year in the games they lost, it was due to their offensive line was terrible last year, and they couldn't really stop the run very well. No. So I think that really plays to Georgia Tech, even if their defensive line is a weakness. With how Colorado's offensive lines have been, I could still see Georgia Tech getting to the quarterback, and I think in either way they're going to have an inexperienced quarterback. Right. I mean, they're going to have a guy that hasn't played a lot of downs, and this is a big game, week 1. So, where's this game being played at? Is it in Boulder?
This is not a tune-up game.
No.
I don't know. I'd have to check. I didn't write it down.
If it's in Atlanta, look out. Georgia Tech get after him.
Well, Georgia Tech on the offensive side have mainly lost wide receivers and tight ends, and they addressed that in the portal.
Yep.
I mean, I think this is a mixture of they're going to be physically outmatched, as well as you got seasoned guys coming up against a young team, and I think that week 1 that's not a good. If this is week 6, 7, and we can see how certain things played out, I might be leaning a different way. week one, that's a tough matchup, man, for
Yeah,
Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
take the experience for sure on that one. I
Yeah.
agree. The game I got is a game that's not played on this country's soil. It'll be played in Dublin. I got Iowa State and Kansas State. Big 12 matchup. Iowa State's coming off an 11-win season, a Big 12 championship appearance, and they won their bowl game over Miami. They're returning quarterback Rocco Becht, but they do have a lot of new faces catching passes. Since this is a one-bid league, this is a really important game. In my opinion, the Big 12 champion is the only Big 12 team that has a shot at making the playoff. And Iowa State's one of those teams that is expected to be there at the end, but so is Kansas State. Kansas State lost a couple games last year that they, were just kind of unexpected. At the time, BYU, wasn't expected to do much. They lost to BYU. They lost to Iowa State. They lost to Houston. And, those losses stacked up in a way that Kansas State didn't really have a chance at the end. They didn't get to play in the conference championship. But this year, their quarterback, Avery Johnson, is a junior now, so this will be his third year. He's played for the same team, played for the same coach. And so I'm expecting a bigger year out of him and maybe a little bit more consistency from Kansas State in general. So week one, Dublin, Big 12 conference game too, which is crazy to me that they're playing this game in Dublin, of all places, for a conference game.
I think that's awesome that they get the opportunity to do that, though.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity.
Really spread college football across the world. You know what I'm saying?
And
I think
we've
that's
seen
a
some
good
pretty
thing,
good
good
games.
for marketing.
Yeah, we've seen some pretty good games in Dublin. Like last year, no one expected Georgia Tech to go in there and beat Florida State. Florida State wound up being not worth a damn, but it is what it is.
It was crazy watching that game because you remember the year previous, everybody was upset because Florida State missed the playoff, and everybody was freaking out. And then, coming off of it and going into Dublin, it's get smacked by Georgia Tech. You're like, it was pretty crazy. It was a pretty good watch.
Yeah, it was. It was a very interesting game. The things I expect from this game is it's going to be a typical Big 12 game. High flying, scores going both ways. I expect it to be close. I expect it to be a really charged up week one game in Ireland, with the winner setting themselves up with a chance to make it to the playoff. If I had to pick this game today, I think I'm going to go with the Wildcats in Kansas State. I like Avery Johnson. I like their coach. I like their offense. I think they're going to be a lot more consistent. I think they're going to be able to win the games that they're supposed to win. And I really think they're going to set themselves up to make it to Dallas and play in the Big 12 championship. I don't know who they'll play and if they'll win, but I really like Kansas State this year. So that's who I'm picking to win this game. What do y'all got?
I'd give it to Kansas State. I like the quarterback. I think the quarterback has a very good chance of doing some good things. We'll see. We'll see what happens after week one.
Mm-hmm. What do you got,
Kansas State?
Yeah, I guess I'll jump on the bandwagon here. After what Kansas State, showed last year, it's hard to pick against them, to be honest with you. I like what they're doing over there. I think it's a good program, and I think they're going to take week one. Now, I'm sure there's going to be how many days before they going? Is that out? Do we know?
I have no idea.
If they got time to recover from the time change and everything like that. But either way, I think Kansas State takes it.
Right. And, Iowa State could win this game. Obviously we'll know a lot more the closer we get to it.
Mm-hmm.
I just think with Iowa State losing a lot of their pass catchers, it's going to be a real big adjustment, I believe. And I just think Kansas State is returning a little bit more. Their quarterback's a little bit more exciting, and I just think it sets them up, So let's go to our players that we feel like are primed for a big 2025. Derek, what do you got on this one?
It's going to be a guy I mentioned a little bit earlier in the video is Whit Weeks, linebacker for LSU. He is I think a sophomore going into this season. He hurt himself at the end of the season last year in the bowl game and against Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
He dislocated his ankle, but I mean, he had all off season. I mean, he's been working hard, trying to get in there. But he had 61 solo tackles and tallied 10 TFLs, and that was 3.5 sacks. So even ran away with an interception and a couple forced fumbles. So I really like the All-American, SEC. You know what I mean? So I think he's a really key player to watch, and I think moving forward he's going to be a huge help, propelling LSU. I mean, I think LSU's got a chance to do some pretty good stuff this season, but we just kind of have to see what's going to happen. So,
well, and LSU's going to need a player like that to step up. It's kind of been the thing since Brian Kelly's got there. Their defenses have been horrendous. Like Jaden Daniels won the Heisman. They went 9-3. So it's going to be really important for them to have a guy like, what'd you say his name was? Whit Weeks?
Whit Weeks, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be really important for a guy like him to step up.
Yeah.
For my player, the first one I picked was Jaden Greathouse, receiver out of Notre Dame. So during the regular season last year, he only had 359 receiving yards in the whole season. He wasn't really a factor. He just was kind of, he was there, but he really didn't make, he wasn't the main guy. But then in the playoff, he flipped the script. He had 13 receptions for 233 yards in the playoff. He was a big factor in their almost comeback against Ohio State. They lost Riley Leonard. This is the third year in a row that Notre Dame's starting a new quarterback week 1. CJ Carr is the predicted starter this fall, and I expect that he will need Jaden Greathouse to have any sort of sustained success, to maybe get the Irish back to the college football playoff. They got a solid run game already. A strength of their team is going to be their offensive line, but you still need to push the ball down the field. At the end of the day, it's a modern game now. You got to push the ball down the field, and I expect this guy to be the recipient of a lot of those passes. That's all I got on him, though. Cody, what do you got?
Man, I got to go with the hometown boy. I am going to go ahead and go with Taylor Green. I think he showed a lot of promise last year. He definitely left a lot to be desired. Yeah. And I can't put the blame 100% on him. Our O-line at times was absolute trash.
I agree.
But then again, I watched him miss wide open throws, and it's hard to hate him, but it was hard for me to love him.
Right.
And I'm excited to see him in year 2, getting a full off season with Bobby, and to see if maybe the arm talent was worked on. He's got a nice arm. I just think there was accuracy issues. I like his legs. I like the dual threat.
His legs.
Yeah, I like the dual threat aspect he gives us. I think if he can have a breakout year, I think watch out. The Hogs really could be a sleeper team. I think like you think it's going to take a big guy to step up for LSU. I think if Green plays the way that we want him and expect him to play, I think we can make a 12-team playoffs. I'm just going to be honest. I know that's a bold prediction. We're in the SEC, but if you ask that guy in the TikTok comments, that don't matter. We should win them all.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, I think there's a real chance, especially the way the playing field's been even. We're seeing these powerhouses not being so powerful. We were able to upset Tennessee and Nico. Now, granted, I don't think Nico's a great quarterback. I think Green is better than him, but that's a whole nother deal.
That's another topic for another day, huh?
Yeah. But anyways, like I said, I'm excited to watch Green play. I think he's on the verge of having a breakout year.
Right. Well, and he was, at times last year, we saw a version of Taylor Green that was electric. He made plays with his legs. He made that great, he underthrew it a little bit, but he made a great throw against Auburn to kind of put that game away. His biggest problem to me was inaccuracy and turnovers. He turned the ball over. We were one of the worst teams in the country for turnovers. And another year under Bobby Petrino, and we've seen guys like Ryan Mallett and Tyler Wilson and a little guy named Lamar Jackson in year 2 take a huge jump.
Is
And
that the
Lamar went
receiver?
from kind of a turnover prone, inexperienced guy to winning the Heisman. So
Right.
if I'm not saying Taylor Green's Lamar Jackson because he's not. There's only one Lamar Jackson, but a similar guy. If he takes 2/3 of that jump that Lamar took, this could be a great year for him and a great year for the Hogs. I hope to see it. Obviously, I'm wearing the hog on my chest right now, and on my head. So, yeah, I really do hope you're right. I hope he is. I hope he has a breakout year. And if he does, he could be a dark horse for a Heisman. I like that. Another player I got is Tony Rojas. He's a linebacker for Penn State. Last year, he got all Big Ten honors as a sophomore, but he really wasn't the guy. Abdul Carter, who got drafted in the NFL draft last week, he was their big guy. And if Penn State, a strength of their team this year needs to be their defense because they lost a lot of pass catchers. I don't know exactly what happened with their running backs. They had a two-headed monster last year, and I'm assuming one of those guys went to the NFL at least. But they are returning their quarterback. They're going to need, another great linebacker to step up if they want any shot at making the playoff again and winning a Big 12, or not a Big 12, a Big 10 that is loaded. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him and seeing all the players we named. Really, I mean, we all named guys that are going to that are.
Could be difference makers,
Yeah, difference makers. They're a very big part of what their team's going to be trying to do. I'm hoping, obviously, I'm hoping for our sake that Cody's the one that's the most right. Hopefully, that LSU player ain't worth a damn, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But is that all y'all got? That's all I have.
That's all I got.
What was the final score on the baseball game?
Let's see. Dang. Sorry, my phone's taking forever to figure this out. Whatever. We were up 7-2 for a little bit there. NCAA baseball. Your Arkansas Razorbacks won 6-1. I guess it was
Lucas took the series over #1 Texas after having a couple.
Go Hogs, baby, go Hogs. But all right, guys, that's all I got. Thank y'all for listening. If you would, tell a friend or tell everyone. Tell your dog. I don't care. We're going to try to release something at least once a week, and we really appreciate you. This was 3 Deep South's first episode. I just want to say thanks, guys. I want to thank Derek and Cody. This is our dream child. This is my passion project. I've always wanted to do something like this. And if you would, just shout us out, suggest us to whoever. That was Derek's dog, Rigby. We want to thank him for being a part of the show today. Guys, y'all got anything you want to say before we end?
I want all y'all to be as hype as Rigby was right then.
That's right.
That's actually Keaton's dog.
Reggie.
Reggie.
Right. Thank you, Reggie. I mean, I appreciate that.
Yeah, he's getting upset at the neighbor. I don't know. But anyway.